All right, welcome to the brain-friendly reading session. We are going to do first the FLoSS lesson. So I want to show you how to do the spelling lesson, that is the FLoSS lesson. You've been thinking about how to do lessons with different graphemes or sounds from your chart. You've been thinking about doing lessons with even syllable dividing. Those are two types of lessons. And the third type of lesson is a spelling lesson. And FLoSS is a spelling rule. So we're going to work with that tonight. In the training program, you have two different pieces of paper that you've been given. One of them is a page that is a formal lesson on FLoSS. So it looks like this. And it gives you the step-by-step of what you need to know to do the FLoSS lesson. On all the lesson pages that you get, there's a title, an objective, which is learning the spelling rule for FLoSS, and then what materials you might need. Now, those assume that you're working in person. If you're doing it online, then you'll have to be more inventive and creative and use other resources. The prerequisite for teaching the FLoSS rule is that the child has tapped their first chart and their blends chart. You can teach the FLoSS lesson before the child knows the blends chart, but there's just not that many words that fit the rule before they know the blends. And the homework for the child, if you're doing this in a tutoring environment, is for them to tap the charts and play the games daily. When you're looking at the lesson, you can say, there are pieces here that tell you what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to say. So it's formatted with what you do and then what you say. So what you do is have the first chart and the blends chart out and available so that the child can reference those. That's really an always. Whenever you're working with the child, always have the charts out for the child to be able to access. Even if the child has their charts in plastic sleeves, front and back, we still want the child to be able to have the chart so that they need to go back to the chart to get a sound, that they have their resource available for them to use so that they can be in control of their learning. So we have our charts out, and we need to have the FLoSS page available for our lesson. Now, depending on the child, you may or may not put this page in front of them ever during the lesson. But it's definitely a resource for you to have. So you have a list of words to use that have one beginning consonant, words that have two beginning consonants, and also compound words if your child is at that level. But always remember when you're using one of these pages that there's multiple skill levels available on the page. And you wouldn't necessarily expect a beginning learner to be able to read the words that are single consonants and double consonants if they were only able to read CVC words and did not know blends. In order to read these words that have blends, they need to have studied their blends chart and had the other work for beginning blends. In order to read compound words, they need to have the ability to read the smaller words. So if they're working really hard at this piece, then this might be saved for another day. And this, where they're matching the beginning syllable to the ending syllable, the beginning of the word to the end of the word, would be saved for another day. So this page really can have more than one day's worth of work on it. If you're in a classroom, you might be able to use this page over several days with a child. And the same applies to the sentences. That when you're taking a look at the sentences, make sure that the sentence doesn't have something in it that the child is not ready to read. For instance, the truck is up on the hilltop has a compound word. If the child hasn't worked with compound words in isolation, then we wouldn't give the child that sentence. We would say that sentence has a skill in it that has not been taught. And remember that our process is we're going to read individual words and then phrases and sentences. This page doesn't have any phrases. So if your child needed that level of next step instruction, then you could create phrases for that child using the individual words. So when you do the lesson for FLoSS, it's a little bit different than following the other lessons. In some ways it's the same, and in some ways it's different. In our basic tutoring outline, we remember that the first thing that we always want to do is tap our charts. And I'm not going to take Grace through the tapping of the charts today, but you could tap all the charts the child knows, or parts of the chart, whatever it is that you think that child needs to do. But you can never tap the charts too much or really too often. And regardless of what you're tapping, always make sure that you do your short vowel sounds, whether you use this chart or whether you use the short vowel sound chart. Always do short vowels, no matter what else you're doing. Then you can do the piece where you're going to dictate individual sounds from the chart that the child can write either in a salt tray or on a write-on-wipe-off board or on just a piece of paper in a notebook. Then you can review, just like you always do. But what's different here is that we are not going to do this piece where when we introduce the new concept that we write the new grapheme 9 times on a paper or a board. We're not going to do that when we're doing a spelling lesson, because what we're going to do is teach the spelling lesson. So this is the piece that's different. There's nothing to write 9 times on the board. And I'll show you what you can do with the FLoSS lesson. We're going to introduce the concept. We're not going to write it 9 times, but we can still arm spell some words, and we can still follow one of the paths from the page here. I'm going to demonstrate today one example of what you could do. It's just one. You'll want to modify what you're doing based on the child you're teaching. If you're teaching it to a 7-year-old, or if you're teaching it to a 12-year-old, you may choose different activities and ways of approaching the work. Hey, Grace, today we're going to learn a new spelling rule. It's called FLoSS, and it's really similar to the CK and the TCH rule that we already learned. And it goes like this. In a 1-syllable word, me first and then you, in a 1-syllable word with 1 short vowel, we're going to double F, L, S, and Z. You probably know the 1-syllable word part. You want to do it with me? In a 1-syllable word with 1 short vowel. And I'll say it first. Double F, L, S, or Z.
Double F, L, S, or Z.
Yeah, that can be kind of tricky for us to know, isn't it? So what we can do is we can write a little handy reminder on a piece of paper to help us remember what it is that we're doing. And it can look like this. In a 1-syllable word with 1 short vowel, double F, L, S, or Z. And we didn't put the Z on there because the Z doesn't show up very much. But this says FLoSS, and this is called the FLoSS rule. I know something else that can help us remember the FLoSS rule. This is a little reminder for us, a little saying that helps us remember the FLoSS rule. It's Jeff will pass Buzz. You say that after me. Jeff will pass Buzz.
Jeff will pass Buzz.
Oh, great job. Would you like to highlight the double F, the double L, the double S, and the double Z? Yeah, you chose to underline them, didn't you? Another child I had, she did this. You want to see what she did? She took her, just like we do rainbow letters when we're writing, she took the marker and she traced it and she said, you want to try that on this one? Oh.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have our device, it's called a mnemonic device. That's the fancy word for it. That helps us remember that in a let me hear you clap. In a one syllable word with one short vowel, double F, L, S, or Z. And what did we say helps us remember that?
This sentence.
Yeah, the sentence and the title, doesn't it? The FLoSS. And let's say our sentence together. Jeff will pass Buzz. Good job. You remember that really well. All right. So we are going to do some Jeff will pass Buzz words. And they sound like this. They sound just like this. You ready? I'm going to say the word first and arm tap it. You ready? Os. Os. Can you guess what that is? Os.
Os. Toss.
Yes, toss. Here's another one. It is uff. Uff. Uff.
Uff. Cuff.
Good job, arm spelling. That's great. Let me think of one more. How about this one? It's one of my favorites. Buzz. Buzz.
Buzz.
Buzz. Have you ever heard a bee buzz by your ear?
Yeah.
Did it scare you?
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. And they're buzzing outside right now a lot, aren't they, with the flowers in bloom? There was a big bee outside my house. It made me feel a little scared. But you know what? I wasn't too scared to smell. Smell.
Smell.
Yeah, what do you think I was smelling?
Maybe some flowers.
Maybe some flowers, the pretty yellow daffodils. Great job with that. All right, so Miss Grace, we have thought about some of the words that double F, double L, double S, and double Z. So right now, how about we get out our letters and we can spell some words with it? Would you like to do that?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, so today I have letters that are homemade letters for us that I put in an ice cube tray, and I took a bingo page and I cut the letters out so that they could be in an ice cube tray for us to use and to spell with. Wasn't that clever of me?
Yeah.
It was my homemade project. I was very happy to have that project to do today. So we're going to use our letters in our letter tray, and I'm going to give you a word to spell, and then you're going to arm tap it. So just like this, if I give you the word to spell, and the word is S. S. Can you arm spell that?
S. S.
Yeah, what do you hear first? Can you find in our letters? And what do you hear next in the middle? Where's Great job. And what's
S?
What's at the end? Oh, you remembered. You remembered two S's. We can remember here. Double F, double L, double S, double S. In a, you want to do it with me? In a one syllable word with one short vowel, double F, L, S, and Z. Yeah, great job. Okay, here's another word. I'm not going to arm spell it this time. You're going to do it. Ready? The word is going to be, let's do the word stuff. What's in the middle? Yeah, you see, I see you working your arm spelling. And what's at the end? Where is? Can you find it? Yeah. And what word do you have there? Great
Stuff.
job. Great job. Should we do one more?
Okay.
Okay. All right. The next word I'm going to give you is going to be a word I hope never happens to you, especially if you have a glass of milk. Spill.
Spill. Spill.
What comes first?
First is sp.
Sp. All right.
There's no more s.
Well, that is tricky, isn't it? Let's make a makeshift.
We used all three.
We did. We were so clever. We used all of them. There we go. That is a real problem if you use these, is making sure you have enough letters. And what was next? What's in the middle?
I.
I. Mm-hmm.
I.
Yeah, there you go. And what do you hear at the end?
I. Oh.
Oh. Yeah, you found them. Great job. And
Spill.
And sometimes kids will be able to, when you're doing this work with them, sometimes they'll read what they just wrote, but sometimes just the spelling of the words is the work itself. And then we can go back and we say, let's read the words from the top.
Mess. Mess. Stuff. Stuff. Spill.
And that it kind of sticks to that "ul," doesn't it? Ill. Those kind of go together, don't they? Yeah, I hope you don't spill your stuff and make a big mess. Oh my goodness, we could even, and tutors, you could even stop right there and make a sentence and add pieces of paper with the words on them to take these three words and build a sentence with a period for your child, so that they can have the experience of taking the words that they just learned how to read and being able to create sentences with those words. And I can see that's going in and out of focus, but I imagine you guys got the idea. So great job with that, Grace. Another option, instead of using tiles, if you didn't have tiles, what you could do instead of using tiles or homemade tiles, if you had an older child, would be to do this. Grace, we're going to use this as our piece of paper today to record our work on. And I'm going to give you a word, and I want you to write it on your page, okay? Your word is going to be, bell.
Bell. B.
Oh, go ahead and arm tap it, the whole thing for me first.
B. O.
Okay, what do you hear first?
B. B.
Okay, go ahead and write it. And what's next?
B. E. B. E. O. O.
I like how you're arm tapping your shoulder and then your elbow. That's great. So you got your first word. So, and you could keep going, tutors, dictating as many words as you'd like to. If you had an older child, you could go ahead and move into doing compound words with the dictation. And then another piece you can do instead of dictating onto that paper is to make a bingo game. And FLoSS really lends itself to a bingo game. So a bingo game is best played when you are together with a child and you and your child can make your bingo game together. But if you're tutoring online, you can also make bingo games. You just need to have a parent with the child, and the parent and the child are going to play together. So if you're online, the parent is making one bingo card and the child is making the other bingo card. And then the parent can also make the card deck. So in a one-on-one in-person tutoring session, you're going to make a card deck and you're going to make your playing card. And the child will be making the other playing card. In an online situation, the parent will be making the card deck and a bingo game, and the child will be making their bingo game. And all this time, you don't have to come up with any other words because you have this page of words that have enough words on there for you to be able to put onto a bingo board. Now, if you're trying to teach this lesson before children have their blends, you're going to find it's tricky to do a bingo board of this size, and you would need to reduce the size of your bingo board. But do you see how easily you can do this? You can either cut it or you can fold your bingo game so that you can get down to a size that's manageable for the age of the child. And you may be working with a child that for whom 12 words is plenty. Or you may be working with a child who really, this is having 20 words is not enough, and they're ready to have a bigger bingo board. So it depends on the age of the child that you're working with, but usually somewhere between 12 and 20 is a good place to start. So when you play, I'll model for you how to do the bingo game. Grace, do you want to play bingo?
Sure.
Okay, great. All right, so this is your bingo card. Do you want to write in black, or would you like to write with a different color?
I'll write with green.
You want to write with green? Okay, I'm going to write with purple today. Okay, so I'll give you a word, and then you decide where you want to put it on your card, and I'll decide where I want to put it on my card.
Okay.
Okay, all right, our first word is going to be cross. All right, the next word that we're going to do is bless. Bless.
B-L-E-S. Bull S.
Mm-hmm.
Bull.
Mm-hmm. I like how you're putting it on your arm. Bless.
Eh.
Yeah, and you can choose wherever you want to put it. And I'm making our deck of cards we're going to use. All right, the next word is staff.
Staff. Staff.
Mm-hmm.
Staff.
Mm-hmm. And a child may arm tap once, they may arm tap twice, they may arm tap really quickly. You may be working with a child who's just sounding it out and not arm tapping. Staff, great job. And the next one is fuzz.
Fuzz. Z.
Mm-hmm, great. And I want to encourage you to encourage your children to arm tap until they're just tired of arm tapping and you know they don't need to arm tap. And Grace might be able to demonstrate for you finger spelling, something I haven't taught you how to do, but I'll teach you how to do it right now. So Grace, I'm going to show you how to finger spell a word. Ready? Because I can see you. Would you rather use your fingers than tap your arms to get your sounds? So
Sure.
watch what I'm going to do. The word is going to be puff. Puff. Did you see that? You want to try it? Mm-hmm. This came first. Would you like to write puff? So Grace didn't sound it out that time, and you have to make a determination whether you're going to encourage them to sound it out. Oh, I want to hear you. I want to hear what you have to say. Okay, Grace, I'm going to pretend like that you and I have, you want to do another finger spelling? Let's do another finger spelling first. How about the word swell?
Swell.
Mm-hmm. You want to practice finger spelling?
Swell. Oh.
Mm-hmm. And this is swa.
Swa.
Mm-hmm. It's voiced. Swa.
Oh.
Okay, I think you got it. Swa.
Oh.
Awesome. All right, so now I'm going to pretend like you're going to do compound words. We're going to pretend like you read the compound words and we want to add compound words to our page, okay? All right, so this is going to be our lesson where I teach you, and I probably already have taught you 2-syllable spelling, but I want to model it for anybody who's needs a reminder about how to do it. And you might have children who need reminders about how to do 2-syllable arm spelling until they do it automatically. So Grace, our next word is going to be buzz cut. Do you know buzz cut? Do you know what a buzz cut is? Yeah. Have you ever seen the guys when they go, or I don't know if they make girls do it or not, but when boys join the Army, they cut their hair really, really short. That's called a buzz cut. You want to clap it with me? Buzz cut. And the first syllable is buzz. We're going to put that on our arm. Buzz. Let's write that. Let's write that on our page. Can you write that? I'd like to hear your voice when you do it. And then let's find the second syllable. We'll clap it again. Buzz cut. What was the second syllable? Cut. Good job.
Cut.
Yep.
Cut.
Awesome. All right.
Cut.
Do you remember now about that? Okay, the next word I'm going to give you is classmate.
Classmate. Classmate. So the first one is class.
And unspell it?
Class.
Good job. And what do you hear first?
Cool.
Okay.
The blend. Class. Classmate. Mate is the second.
And that last sound goes on your wrist. Mate. Yeah, mate. What do you hear first? Okay, go ahead and write that. A's in the middle. Oh, and you remembered you needed that E to jump over to make that A. Say its name. Yeah. What would it say if there wasn't an E there?
Classmat.
Yeah. So a lot of dyslexic children wouldn't be able to answer that. So you're a very good dyslexic 18-year-old. All right. So we've made part of our bingo boards, and you can see how much effort and time goes into crafting this bingo board, how much spelling goes into and the thinking about the spelling and the doubling of the consonants, and you can keep jumping back to the rule that the child forgets and see if it matches the rule. And you have your deck of cards. So if you were going to play, we don't have our box of stuff with us, do we? No, yeah, it's all right. We'll play a different way. So if you're going to play, you have this deck of cards, and you can turn it upside down, and then you take turns. So I would say to the child, okay, my turn first. All right, I drew the word cross. It's my turn. I'm glad you're reading. Cross. All right, let me look and find where cross is. And I'm going to put that card next to the child's work so that the child can reference it and be looking at the word while they're scanning their page. And what you want the child to do when they're looking to find it, if they don't find it easily, is to go across the page looking for cross. Holding the card above the space is a huge help for the child who's struggling. An intermediate help is to just let the child drag their finger across, saying cross, cross. And they're practicing the scanning of words from left to right, just like we expect them to do in reading. So when they find cross, then they're going to take an object or a counter, whatever it is that you have that you want them to cover that word up. We don't really want them to cross it off, although if it is a consumable, like if you do this on a piece of paper, if you just drew a bingo board on their piece of paper, oh, this one's super messy, but if you drew a bingo board on their piece of paper and they were just going to write the words on their piece of paper and you did the same, then when they found cross, they could just cross it off. That's what we do in the classroom. We don't have these fancy pages made for the children. We just have them build mathematical arrays. If they're a 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, they can do that. And then they can just find the words and cross them off. And it makes the game really go much more quickly and reduces the amount of prep and the amount of paper that's required. In a tutoring environment, having them build a game board is lovely, because then the game board and the game cards can get put into a plastic sleeve or some other container and sent home with the child, or used again on another day, or sent to their classroom so that they can play this game with a friend, or when you see them next, this can become a review activity to play a game of bingo before you get started on your lesson, and you review your rule, you play the game, and that is their review of how to read Jeff will pass buzzwords. So if she found cross, we would put our objects on cross, and then it would be, and we're going to pretend like these are objects where we're going to cover up our cross. And then it would be Grace's turn to choose a card.
Bless.
And if she can read bless, she doesn't need to arm tap it. If she just reads bless, great. All right, let's find bless. You find bless and I'll find bless. Oh, Grace, we forgot to decide before we started how we would know who won. Were we going to play today whoever got one column or one row?
Maybe one column.
Maybe one column. Maybe next time we can play for whoever gets 4 corners. Yeah, or if you had a board that had a diagonal piece, you could play diagonal. Sometimes I've had kids say they want to play bingo and whoever gets all the ones in the middle first is the winner. It doesn't really matter how you decide to do it, because when you're done, you just shuffle your cards and play again if you have more time. So it's my turn, and I'm always, as this tutor or the teacher, going to hold my card where Grace can see it, and staff. And I'm going to let her read along with me. So I'm modeling the blending process every time I take a turn. Reduces how much I have to tell her what to do by me showing her carefully what it is I want her to do. Staff. That's like a tall rod. Sometimes people use a staff when they're out walking to help steady them. And you can see that we use this activity for vocabulary building, that one of the components of a structured literacy program is vocabulary. One of the pieces being asked for out of the Michigan task force that looked at what the components were that were necessary for moving children up the ladder of reading, one of them was vocabulary. So in all of these lessons, we're helping the child to understand what the words are so they can make meaning out of them, so they can develop pictures in their mind about what it is that those words look like. What does a staff look like? A tall rod that would help them to go hiking. All right, so here's the staff. Well, I just found your staff for you. Oh, I'm so helpful, aren't I? I know. And I always, whenever I goof up in a lesson like I just did with her, I always make it super silly. Like, oh, and I've told you guys that before, but I always do, because I love to make mistakes, because then it lets the kids know that I'm not perfect and I make mistakes too, and it's okay for them to make mistakes. And we'll just pretend like I make mistakes on purpose. All right, it's your turn. Awesome. All right, so we're going to cover up our puff, and then we keep going until we won. And then when we won, when she won or I won, if we had more time, we might play again. Usually for this work, I don't have more time, but I happily send this work home with a child, and they are able to play this game again with their grown-up, and it becomes their reading work that they're going to do at home. That this is a solid piece of reading work for them to focus on this one skill by just playing a game. If I had an older child, one of the things I might have done too is let them read through these lists of words to help me to know what level of reading that they're at. If we had worked on compound words, I would have let them do this perhaps as a take-home activity. So this page can also be a take-home activity for them as well. Maybe you're only going to read with them the top row, and for their homework, they're meant to go home and read the second row and come back to you the next day and read those words for you and show you how much they've learned. So this can be a take-home activity for them, but what's more likely to get more time and attention at home is for them to do what could be done by reading rows here in the game, that they're going to read words when they're playing the game instead of reading words off a static page. And that usually gets more buy-in and more cooperation, and most importantly, more repetition, that you can invite the child to play the game again and again. Inviting a child to read words and word columns again and again is not usually something that has a high degree of joy attached to it, from my experience. Nor do you even get the child to do that work. So that is the Jeff will pass buzz lesson. Of course, you can take sentences and dictate those sentences to the child on their page. They can write those sentences. That's an activity that can also be done. You can take the compound words and put these words on cards, and the children take the two cards and they match up the beginning and the ending. So you can do a compound word match using cards. There's a variety of different ways you can use the words that are on this page for different learning activities, far more than you would need for one session. Okay. So I hope that gives you an idea about a spelling lesson, that spelling lessons really lend themselves to playing bingo, so that the child can have a lot of practice with spelling, with writing the words, but for a purpose. And they're usually very eager to fill up their bingo card so that they can play bingo. And it will happily write 12, 15, 20 words and then get to play the game. Whereas dictating the 12, 15, 20 words onto a piece of paper is work. This they perceive to be play. So that takes care of the FLoSS or Jeff will pass buzz spelling lesson. To find out more, go to brainfriendlyreading.org. There you'll find the products that we sell, along with information about the trainings we provide for tutors, teachers, and parents.